maintaining the original structure and essence. The wealthy gardener. There is a gardener. He doesn't look rich, but his thinking is rich. He has no expensive car, no big house, but he has experience. He has a son who wants money and wants to be successful, but doesn't know the way. One day the son asks, "Dad, how do people become rich?" The gardener smiles and says, "If you truly want to be rich, you must first understand life." This is where the story of the wealthy gardener begins. This is not a book about money. It is a book about mindset. This book changes the person before the investment. The gardener says, "Wealth is not money. Wealth is a capability. The rich person is not just the one who has money, but the one who can create money, repeatedly, in any circumstance." The gardener takes his son into the garden. There are trees all around, some small, some large. He asks, "What do you see?" The son says, "Trees." The gardener says, "No, you are seeing the future. The small plant today will become the big tree of tomorrow, but only when the right seed is sown, the right soil is provided, and the right time is given." Money is exactly like this. Wealth doesn't grow overnight. Wealth demands patience. Those who want it quickly don't go very far. The gardener asks, "Do you know why most people stay poor?" Because they think money will change their lives, while the truth is that first, you have to change your life, and only then does the money change. First, a person becomes wealthy within, then the bank balance follows. The gardener says, there are two types of people in the world. One who wants comfort, and the other who wants growth. Those who seek comfort stay safe today, but live in fear tomorrow. Those who seek growth work hard today, but are free tomorrow. The gardener says clearly, wealth is built by sacrifice, not by excuses. Your income comes from your value. If you create more value, money will come automatically. If your value is low, even hard work won't help. Therefore, education is necessary, but not a degree. Rather skill, character, and discipline. School prepares you for a job. Life prepares you for wealth. The gardener tells his story. He himself was poor. He had no money, but he had a hunger to learn. He didn't choose shortcuts. Every day, he made himself a little better. He adopted daily discipline. Years later, his life changed. Wealth doesn't come overnight. Wealth is built daily. Every small right decision of today becomes the big freedom of the future. Then the gardener asks the final question, do you want to look rich, or do you want to be rich? Those who want to look rich, spend. Those who want to be rich, invest, first of all, in themselves. Here, the first seed of the story is fully planted. The gardener tells his son, if you want to be rich, first learn discipline. Discipline is something that gives pain today but gives comfort tomorrow. And a lack of discipline gives comfort today but pain tomorrow. Most people cannot make money because they cannot control their daily actions. Wealth is not an accident. Wealth is the result of habit. The gardener explains that every human walks on two paths. One is the path of short-term pleasure, the other is of long-term reward. The person who chooses TV, mobile, gossip, and laziness today chooses compulsion tomorrow. And the one who chooses discipline, learning, and focus today chooses freedom tomorrow. Money simply amplifies this difference. The gardener asks his son, do you know what the biggest enemy of wealth is? Ignorance. When a person spends money without understanding it, money gradually runs away from them. Rich people respect money. They give a command to every dollar, where to go, why to go, and when to go. The gardener says behavior is more important than income. Many people earn well but still stay poor because their behavior is poor. Wealth is built by behavior, not by salary. If your behavior changes, income will automatically follow. Then the gardener talks about humility. He says the one who stops learning stops growing. Ego keeps a person poor. Rich people always remain students. They know the world keeps changing, and those who don't change will be left behind. Humility opens the gate to wealth. The gardener explains to his son, stop comparing yourself. Comparison creates a poverty mindset. Every person's journey is different. You only compete with your yesterday's version. If you are better today than you were yesterday, you are on the right path. Wealth is not a race. Wealth is a process. The gardener says clearly, saving is not a habit of poor people. Saving is a habit of smart people. Saving doesn't happen out of fear. Saving happens out of clarity. First, pay your future, then enjoy your present. He who cannot save money can never build wealth. Finally, the gardener says something very deep. Your identity determines your income. If you consider yourself a struggling person, you will only find struggle. If you consider yourself a responsible, disciplined, and capable person, wealth becomes a natural outcome. The gardener tells his son, people fear risk, but in reality, risk feels scary due to a lack of understanding. Rich people don't take blind risks, they take calculated risks. They know that every risk has a price, but there is no other way to growth either. The person who runs away from risk entirely remains average for life. The gardener explains that patience is the silent partner of wealth. Most people fail because they want quick results. The seed is sown today. The fruit is received tomorrow. Wealth is not made in a microwave. Wealth grows in a field. The person who learns to wait is the one who becomes big. The gardener tells his son, long-term thinking separates the poor and the rich. The poor think about today. The rich think about tomorrow. The poor don't think before spending. The rich spend after thinking. When making a decision, rich people ask themselves, will this decision increase or decrease my future freedom? The gardener explains the relationship between money and time. He says time is the most expensive asset, money is its servant. The person who sells all his time to earn money can never be rich. Rich people invest their time, poor people spend their time. The gardener says, wealth compounds slowly, but poverty also compounds. If you take wrong financial decisions every day, the effect won't show in one day, but it will be heavy over the years. Similarly, small right daily decisions build great wealth in the future. The gardener tells his son, the comfort zone is the graveyard of wealth. Where there is comfort, growth dies. Rich people take uncomfortable decisions, such as adopting discipline, controlling expenses, and making time for learning. All this is not easy, but this is what makes the difference. The gardener explains, fear is temporary, regret is permanent. The person who doesn't take action today due to fear lives with regret tomorrow. Wealth lives on the other side of fear, where most people never reach. The gardener reminds his son, your daily routine designs your future. If the routine is random, the future will also be random. Rich people control their mornings, they control their habits, and their habits control their destiny. The gardener tells his son, wealth doesn't last just by money, character sustains it. If the character is weak, money doesn't stay long either. More important than becoming rich is becoming trustworthy, because long-term wealth is always built on trust. The gardener explains, relationships are invisible wealth. The right people get you the right opportunities. The wrong people lead you down the wrong paths. Rich people choose their circle intentionally. They spend time with those who force them to think big, not those who make them feel small. The gardener tells his son, integrity is the seed that doesn't give fruit immediately, but gives fruit for a lifetime. When you do the right thing, even when no one is watching, you are protecting your future. A shortcut can give money, but not security. The gardener says, wealth is fragile if values are not strong. Many people earn money but cannot manage it because they lack discipline and ethics. Rich people don't live by rules. They live by principles. The gardener explains to his son, ego is the biggest enemy of wealth. The person who stops learning starts falling. Rich people consider themselves students, no matter how successful they become. The gardener says, respect is not bought, it is earned. Money doesn't bring respect. Behavior does. In the long term, people judge you not by your words but by your actions. The gardener tells his son, the real purpose of wealth is not just to live for yourself, but to create value for others. The person who solves others' problems naturally attracts wealth. The gardener explains, generosity is not a weakness, it is a sign of an abundance mindset. The person who is afraid to give always lives in scarcity. But the person who gives stays in the flow. Money comes, goes, and then returns. The gardener reminds his son, a legacy is not built by bank balance, but by impact. People remember you after death not by how much money you had, but by how many lives you changed. The gardener tells his son, wealth isn't made suddenly. It's made from small daily habits. People who do the right things every day see extraordinary results years later. Discipline is not a punishment, but the price of future freedom. The gardener explains, rich people don't wait for motivation. They build systems. Whether motivation comes or not, the system keeps working. Just as a farmer goes to the field every day regardless of his mood, a wealth builder works in his financial field every day. The gardener tells his son, controlling expenses is the first step to wealth. The person who doesn't pay himself first can never be rich. Savings are the seeds that give birth to future income. The gardener says, a part of every income should go into automatic investment, without thinking, without excuses. Making a decision every day is hard, so rich people turn decisions into habits. The gardener tells his son, if debt is not under control, it becomes slavery. Debt taken for necessities can be wise, but debt taken for lifestyle eats up future earnings. The gardener explains, time is more valuable than wealth. A person who wastes time, no matter how much they earn, cannot be rich. Rich people ask before every task, is this taking me closer to my long-term goal? The gardener teaches his son, consistency is the real power of compounding. Take small right steps every day. Years later, those steps become a mountain. Wealth is not noisy, it is built quietly. The gardener says, habits take you where motivation cannot. When discipline becomes a lifestyle, success doesn't feel like an effort. The gardener explains to his son, if you choose today's comfort, you lose tomorrow's freedom. But if you choose discipline today, tomorrow's freedom is guaranteed. The gardener tells his son, in building wealth, running away from risk is wrong, and taking risk with closed eyes is also wrong. A wise person takes calculated risks. He first learns, then places a small bet, and by taking lessons from the results, he gradually increases his scope. The gardener explains, patience is the least understood rule of wealth. Most people stay poor because they want to get rich quickly. But those who learn to wait reap the true benefit of compounding. The gardener tells his son, the market makes noise in the short term, but tells the truth in the long term. The person who gets scared seeing daily ups and downs cannot win the game of wealth. Rich people don't listen to noise, they look at the direction. The gardener says, loss is not failure. It is a lesson. Every loss makes you stronger if you learn from it. But if ego comes in between, that same loss breaks you. The gardener tells his son, wealth protection is as important as wealth creation. Earning money can be easy, but keeping it is difficult. Therefore, always keep diversification, margin of safety, and humility with you. The gardener explains, the future will always be uncertain, but discipline manages uncertainty. The person who stays prepared for every situation remains in the game for a long time. The gardener teaches his son, long-term thinkers endure short-term pain. They know that today's patience becomes tomorrow's freedom. The gardener says, the wealth journey is a marathon, not a sprint. The person who keeps running consistently is the one who reaches the end. The gardener tells his son the last thing in this part, if you stay emotionally stable, financial stability will happen on its own. The gardener tells his son, money doesn't come from outside, but from the thinking within. The person who feels deep down, I don't deserve to be rich, cannot keep money in their hands. Wealth is first built in the mind, then in the bank. The gardener explains, fear is the biggest invisible tax. Fear stops a person from taking risks, and greed forces them to take too much. Rich people are driven neither by fear nor by greed. They are driven by logic. The gardener tells his son, a scarcity mindset traps a person in short-term thinking. The one who thinks, if I don't take it today, the chance will be gone, is the one who makes wrong decisions. A person with an abundance mindset knows opportunities will always exist. The gardener says, quote, comparison is the poison of wealth. Increasing expenses after seeing others' lifestyles is like mortgaging your future. Rich people don't compete with others, they compete with their own past version. The gardener explains to his son, emotional control is the backbone of wealth. In the market, business, and life, the winner is the one who recognizes his emotions rather than running from them. The gardener says, confidence comes from experience, and experience from mistakes. So don't avoid mistakes, learn from them. But repeating the same mistake is ignorance. The gardener tells his son, wealth stays with those who take responsibility. A person who blames can never be rich. Rich people don't change circumstances, they change decisions. The gardener explains, inner dialogue is very powerful. The things you say to yourself every day become your financial reality. The gardener gives the final lesson in this part. When you recognize your fear, money doesn't control you, you control the money. The gardener tells his son, if the purpose of wealth is only to live for yourself, it never feels complete. Money gives satisfaction only when it has a greater purpose. Money earned without purpose leaves an emptiness. The gardener explains, true wealth begins when you create value, not just chase profit. For the person who makes others' lives easier, wealth follows them on its own. The gardener tells his son, contribution is not extra work, it is part of the wealth cycle. Learn to give, because that which stops rots. Money grows if it stays in flow. The gardener says, a legacy is not what you leave behind, but what you leave inside people. Your values, your lessons, your example, this is the true inheritance. The gardener tells his son, give children and the next generation principles, not just money. If money goes into hands without understanding, it becomes a curse. The gardener explains, successful people consider their wealth a responsibility, not a privilege. They know it is their duty to put what they have received in the right direction. The gardener reminds his son, gratitude multiplies wealth. The person who is not happy with what they have will not be happy even after getting more. The gardener says, when your money aligns with your values, your life becomes conflict-free. The gardener says the final thing in this part, the day you learn to give, that is the day you truly become rich. The gardener tells his son, the path to wealth looks simple, but people make it complicated. Most people leave the basics to find shortcuts, and that's where they make mistakes. If the basics are right, wealth builds itself. The gardener explains, the biggest mistake is assuming one day everything will be fine. Wealth planning is built on present action, not on future hope. The one who procrastinates today regrets tomorrow. The gardener tells his son, advice from the wrong people destroys wealth. Don't listen to everyone's financial advice. Listen only to those whose lives are the way you want yours to be. The gardener says a decision taken in greed always gives regret, and a decision taken in fear steals opportunity. Balance is the real secret of wealth. The gardener explains, building wealth doesn't mean you don't enjoy life, but the money for enjoyment should not be at the cost of the future. The one who blows everything today lives in compulsion tomorrow. The gardener tells his son, leave comparison, catch consistency. The world will always seem ahead, but the one who keeps walking on his own path reaches the end. The gardener says, financial success doesn't come alone. It comes with personal growth. As a person becomes emotionally mature, wealth also becomes stable. The gardener gives a final warning. Don't make wealth your identity. Money doesn't define you. You define money. The day money becomes ego, the downfall begins. The gardener summarizes this part in one line. The person who uses wealth as a tool becomes its master. The gardener walks in the garden for the last time with his son. The plants have now grown large. The fruits have appeared. The gardener smiles and says, wealth is exactly like this garden. The one who sows with patience reaps in time. The gardener tells his son, you learn that money is not magic. It is the result of habits, thinking, and decisions. Every small right decision taken every day shapes your future. The gardener explains, wealth is not a destination, it is a way of living. When you learn to live the right way, money itself starts walking on that path. The gardener reminds his son, if the path ever feels difficult, return to the basics. Hard work, honesty, patience, and discipline, these are the seeds that never betray. The gardener says, remember, the world won't reward you until you create value. The more the value, the more the wealth. The gardener shares the final lesson. True success is when you have money, peace, and purpose. If even one of these is missing, wealth remains incomplete. The gardener puts his hand on his son's shoulder and says, now this garden is yours. It is your responsibility to maintain it, nurture it, and take it forward. Do not keep what you have learned only to yourself. In the final line, the gardener says, when you stop chasing wealth and grow your character, wealth starts chasing you. If you found this story to be a lesson not just about money, but about life, then like this video, share it with a friend who needs financial clarity, and subscribe to the channel for more deep, honest finance audiobook summaries. Remember, earning money is a skill, but managing money is wisdom. See you in the next audiobook summary.